Hey YouTube, Matt here from Cleveland Aerial Media. Today I'm sitting here with Albert Campos. He's an active Marine who just came back from his third tour of Afghanistan. He's here to talk a little bit today about UAV and UAV integration into the modern economy. So thanks for talking with me today, Albert. Tell us a little bit about your military path and where you've been and where you are now.
Well, I joined the Marine Corps in winter 2009, and I started training to be a UAV operator in I think it was the spring of 2010, and I've been a UAV operator ever since. I've actually gone to Afghanistan 3 times. I've gone several training operations like WTI, EMV, all these training operations over in California, and just been training up Marines now.
Awesome.
That's really what my role is right now.
Yeah, awesome. So that's a little bit about your military occupation specialty. Why don't you go a little more in depth about that, like the type of UAVs you fly, how they operate?
Sure. Well, the main UAV that I've been trained in is the RQ-7 Bravo, the Shadow, and I've been working with that system for about 3 years now. It's very useful for reconnaissance, surveillance, and target acquisition. That's what our squadron specializes in. Our squadron also has the K-Max, which is a rotary wing UAV, and it's used for cargo delivery operations. It's actually just a giant helicopter that's just unmanned now, and they just deliver cargo back and forth from site to site.
What do you prefer flying, the quadcopters or the multi-rotors or the fixed wing drones?
Well, I don't have any real experience with the quadcopter. I'm more a fixed wing drone guy, but I've seen it in action a little earlier on, and it looks pretty cool and pretty
awesome
useful stuff. Yeah.
So what are the purposes of the Shadow that you fly? What kind of data are you collecting?
Really, we just collect we collect data and any useful information and disseminate that to whatever supporter unit we have. So for example, if we're looking at a road and we see a guy digging in the road, you know, a simple example like that, we'll communicate that information to our supporter unit on the ground, and they'll take it from there, and they'll do whatever needs to be done.
Very interesting. So you are kind of collecting images from the air, communicating them to the ground troops.
Yes.
So that sounds to me why drones are being integrated into the military. I feel like the rules of warfare have changed quite a bit. What do you think about that?
They actually have. Ever since drones have been integrated into the battle space, the ground commanders feel a lot more, I guess, safer sending out like a patrol, for example, because they'll know that, hey, if they're about to get into some trouble, they'll at least have that early warning, like, hey, they were warned maybe 5 minutes in advance of an impending ambush, and they can act and coordinate as opposed to just walking into a trap. You know, so I think it actually changed the game for everybody. Unmanned
aerial vehicles is exactly what it's titled. It's meant to save lives, and that's why you guys are flying them. So at Cleveland Aerial Media, before we ever leave the ground, we have a lot of pre-flight checklists and pre-flight rituals, we like to call them. Yeah. Tell us some of the pre-flight checklists that you have to go through.
Well, the way that we treat our system, we treat it like a regular aircraft. The only difference between us and a regular aircraft is that we don't have a pilot inside the aircraft, but we have all the same checks that let's say like an F-18 does. Granted, it's a little smaller scale than an F-18, you know, a giant jet has, but we still have all of our checklists. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for us to complete a check, so we can actually launch our AV and get in the air. And we have to do engine checks, surface checks, payload checks, you name it, everything. We check everything on the aircraft.
Yes, so when it comes down to it, it's to avoid any negligence and avoid any type of possible crash or collision. That's what we try to do at Cleveland Aerial Media. We try to let people know that we're as credible as possible, and that we're not just flying aimlessly. We have a mission, and we take off, complete our mission, and land. And making your pre-flight checklist religious is very important to having successful missions, I feel.
It definitely is. It definitely makes the whole aspect of flying UAV a lot more safer if you are maximizing like your equipment's effectiveness, I guess you could say. You know, like you're making sure that everything's in working order before you put that aircraft in the air, and I think that's how everybody should operate. To be honest with you. I mean,
Yes.
this is, I mean, even though it's an unmanned aircraft, it's still an aircraft. You still have to be safe. You know, safety is key when it comes to flying UAVs.
So when it comes down to it, CAM operates under recreational jurisdiction because in the U.S. it's being highly regulated by the FAA, the airspace. They still have a roadmap to come up with regulation and confirm legality by the end of 2015. Do you feel aerial photography could be useful in applications such as search and rescue missions, property surveillance, or live sports coverage? Things such as that?
Absolutely. In those three examples you gave right now, I mean, it always pays to have a better view. You know, you can only see so much when you're at ground level. When you're up in the air, you have that bird's eye view, I guess you could say. You can see a lot more of what you can't see when you're at the ground.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Because the FAA has failed to keep up with the growing number of commercial aerial photographers in the United States,
Yes.
and the CAM team kind of feels that they're at fault because the technology is trying to keep up with the current rules as far as the height ceilings and line of sight goes. What is your opinion on this gray area? Do you think the FAA should step it up a notch, or do you feel that local law offices and states should pick up the ball per se and develop the laws instead?
I think it's a little bit of both, but definitely the FAA needs to step up like their whole rules and regulations and actually speed up the process of integrating UAS into national airspace, because it's gonna happen eventually. If the FAA doesn't step up, I mean, they're just really holding up what the future has in store for aviation.
So it's really awesome to have you here because a lot of people feel threatened by drones, but it's really cool to hear your opinion and how you as an active military UAV pilot feels that drones could be a positive influence in the modern economy. UAVs are predicted to become a multi-billion-dollar industry, not only in this country but in the entire world. Excuse me. This could create thousands of jobs throughout the world. However, because of the lack of regulation in this country, those jobs have yet to get off the ground. Drones could be a great opportunity and career path for people such as you to come out of the military who maybe haven't had background in school, but they have work history and they have actual credibility with flying these machines. You could come out of the military and, for example, become a search and rescue pilot for UAVs. Is that something you would be interested in? And if you weren't, it would be a good idea to implement jobs such as that?
Absolutely. I mean, the more jobs you can make in this country, the better our economy as a whole would be, in my opinion. I mean, if you have guys that have tons of UAV experience, but all that's gonna get them is just credibility inside the military, then all that UAV experience goes out the window once he becomes a civilian. Then all those years of experience is for nothing. If UAVs are integrated into the civilian workspaces, that would definitely create a lot more jobs, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cleveland Aero Media wants to be on that cutting edge technology. And Albert, I really want to thank you for coming in and talking with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
I look forward to hearing what our viewers have to say about you coming in and discussing this. So
Sure thing.
it's been a pleasure.